Hey guys, welcome back. Glenn with Old School Millennial. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite things, and you guessed it, it's chainsaws. There's just something about chainsaws that you got an engine, you got a bar and chain, you put them together to go cut down trees. There's just something so right about that. Today I'm going to be going over some of the chainsaw basics that I've kind of touched on them in different videos, but this is just kind of meant to be an intro and a kind of a chainsaws 101 for getting into chainsaws. And this can be a refresher for those that have a lot of experience with chainsaws, but they kind of need a refresher on some of the safety and aspects of the chainsaws. So first off, I'm going to be going over the components of a chainsaw. We've got the handle, we got bar and chain. This is your chain brake. I'll be talking about this a little bit in a minute. On this saw, it's got a primer bulb. A lot of homeowner saws have primer bulbs. Some pro-level chainsaws have primer bulbs. This is your gas, and this is your bar oil. Now, in speaking about gas, I'm a proponent of using non-ethanol gas. And the reason for that, the gas that they use these days, it has a lot of ethanol in it, and what that does, if you leave a chainsaw setting for a time, it causes it to gum up the carburetor, and it just makes your life a little bit harder whenever you're trying to start a chainsaw after leaving it setting for a long time. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about storing a chainsaw later in the video. It's one of those things, using non-ethanol gas, you'll thank yourself in the long run because you won't have to rebuild carburetors and have issues starting it. So the other components of the chainsaw are the trigger, and then the choke, and the kill switch, and then the pull cord. If you're new to chainsaws, you'll have to learn how to put on the bar and chain. And for that, you'll need a scrunch tool to put that on, and you'll need to learn how to tighten the chain on the bar. To put on the bar and chain, you put the bar on, and then you put the chain on, and then there is a chainsaw tensioner that you use your scrunch to tighten that up. And then once you feel a good amount of resistance, you want to leave a little bit of just a little bit of slack for that. And I show this in other videos. So now you know the components of the chainsaw. Now I'll be showing you the gear that I use with my chainsaw. So first off, when you're using a chainsaw, you're gonna want to put your chainsaw shafts on. Now, in one of my most recent videos, I shared a story about one of my friends that was using his chainsaw. He did not have chainsaw shafts, and whenever he was making a cut, his chainsaw was still going, went right through and hit his leg. He was about a little over an hour away from the hospital. It did not cause any serious damage. He just needed stitches, but it was a reminder just how important chainsaw shafts are. Y'all, you have femoral arteries that go into your legs, and
that's one of the fastest ways that you can bleed out.
So get you some chainsaw shafts. I know that they're bulky and sometimes they're hot during the summer, but if you ever have a day, you just have a bad day, it's just not worth it. It's not worth not wearing them. As I said, I'll put a link to the ones that I use in the description, but yes, go get some chainsaw shafts before running any chainsaw. Also, when using a chainsaw, you're gonna wanna use some good gloves, either leather gloves, but you need some good gloves. Also, you need a good pair of boots, leather boots, preferably steel toe boots. And then you're also gonna want some ears to protect your hearing. And then obviously you're gonna want some glasses. You can either use clear glasses, or I use these, they're called Bugs glasses. They have a mesh, and what's really nice about them is they don't fog up, and they're just enough to where they block the fines of the sawdust that's coming, but it doesn't get into your eyes. If you're using your chainsaw for felling trees, obviously you're gonna need a hard hat in addition to the other safety gear that I talked about. I'll be sure to put a link in the description to all the gear, chainsaw gear that I use. For the startup procedure on these chainsaws, I'll be sure to put a link here. I have 2 videos on chainsaw startup, both for Husqvarna and for Stihl. Go check those out. Now, with cutting with the chainsaw, it's important to understand that one of the safest ways to cut is either on the bottom part, right up next to your power head, or on the top part, because you have the most control of your saw when in those situations. Now, I realize there are some situations that you need to cut with the end of your bar. I would suggest you learn your chainsaw and you have more experience before cutting with the end of your chainsaw, because moving on to the next tip, talking about kickback. With kickback, y'all, you can hurt yourself so fast. This is how kickback works. When you're running your saw, the chain brake will stop the chain from moving. One thing with kickback, the longer your bar, the more control you'll have with that. So people think, they see a longer bar and they think, oh, that's more dangerous. And there are some dangers, obviously, to any chainsaw, but having a shorter bar, it can kick back faster and you have a little bit less control to get it back in control. Just be mindful of that. Mainly be mindful of where your hand is on the chainsaw. Make sure your hand is fully around and your thumb is all the way around the handle, and that way the chain brake can work properly if you ever are in that situation. Another thing you need to know about chainsaws is how to sharpen them. I'm gonna put a link to a video that I did on sharpening with a bench grinder. I'll also put a link to another YouTuber who I think has done one of the best chainsaw sharpening videos that's out. His name is Buckin' Billy Ray. I'll put a link down in the description to Buckin. He is a wealth of knowledge in terms of using chainsaws. Check that video out in terms of sharpening. Finally, when you're done using your chainsaw and you're putting it up, don't forget, if you plan on not using your chainsaw for several months, go ahead and take your gas and bar oil out of the chainsaw. You don't want to leave fluids for long term in your chainsaw. You'll have a lot longer lifespan of your chainsaw if you do that. It's just a lot better way to store your equipment. Now, if you forget to take the fluids out of your chainsaw, like most people, a lot of people, that's where the non-ethanol gas comes into play. If you have non-ethanol gas in it, it's going to be a lot more forgiving than ethanol gas, and you have a lot better likelihood of it gumming up your carburetor in the long run. So just remember that, y'all. Non-ethanol gas, pay the little bit more that it costs, and you will be so much more thankful, and you'll have a lot longer use of your chainsaw. You may ask yourself, how do I choose which chainsaw for me to use, and what size should I use? I've got you covered on that as well. Go back and check one of my videos I made on how to choose a chainsaw. And in that video, I talk about the power. I talk a little bit about the power in relation to the bar that you choose. I also have a video on choosing bar length, so if you want to check that video out as well. I hope some of these tips are helpful. And for those of you that are familiar with chainsaws, if you will, please put down in the comments a time that you were thankful to have your safety gear, or a time maybe that you didn't have your safety gear, and just share that story so that some of us can learn from that. Thanks y'all for joining me. Until next time, you guys, get outside and do something you love.